Unwrap incredible Canon deals at Rockbrook Camera. Check out the new EOS R100 mirrorless camera featuring 4K video and our free Photo Basics class. It's only $499.99. Save $100 this week. Get in closer to your subject with Canon RF lenses. On sale this week for up to $300 off. The best Canon holiday camera deals and the local camera experts are at Rockbrook Camera. 1 block south of 168th and West Center in Omaha, 70th and Pioneers in Lincoln, and online at rockbrookcamera.com.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. An agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, go to SelectQuote.com. SelectQuote.com. That's SelectQuote.com.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at SelectQuote.com/commercials.
In August of 2016, prolonged rainfall from an unpredictable storm resulted in catastrophic flooding in the state of Louisiana. In my city of Denham Springs, 90% of the homes received water, some 4,200 homes. Of those, 3,000 of these homes received 18 inches or more of water, 25 to 30 inches of rain in less than 72 hours. The Amite River, which cuts through the heart of Livingston Parish, crested at 46.2 feet, some 5 feet above its previously recorded record and some 17.2 feet above its flood stage at Denham Springs. This is my story, as it was experienced through my own eyes, the day I saw the river rise. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. I'm Jim Chapman. I'll be your host as I tell you this first-person view of the events that happened to me personally in 2016, in August of 2016. I'm going to be freestyling this. It'll be an audio-only podcast. However, as these podcasts are released, I will be releasing pictures of what I have of the things that I discuss on that particular episode. So look for that on Facebook at Local Leaders, the podcast on Facebook. So I'm going to jump right into this and kind of tell you a little bit about who I am. This first episode is going to be more or less the events that led up to the Great Flood of 2016 here in South Louisiana. I'm a podcast host here with Local Leaders of the Podcast. We're a local, hyper-local, really, podcast that focuses on small businesses in the Livingston Parish and Baton Rouge area. And we tell the entire story of business ownership on our show. But this series is going to be about my experiences with the Great Flood of 2016. So we'll get started. And just to tell people where I was at that point in time in 2016, August specifically, I was working for a company called Farrell Calhoun Paint Company. It's a family-owned paint company out of Memphis, Tennessee, with a 120-year history. of manufacturing paint, really just going about life. In August 9th specifically, I can tell you what I was doing. I remember that day. I was at home about 5:30 that evening, and I watched the news report, and the weather came on, and they had mentioned it was a storm, but not like what we're used to here in South Louisiana, which is like a hurricane or a tropical depression or a tropical storm. This was over land, but it was wind shear or something like that, an upper level low. I don't know, whatever they call them in the weather industry, but it was in Florida, and it was a pretty big system. And we were getting scattered rains throughout that day here in South Louisiana. And it was just kind of saying that this thing was slowly moving, but it was kind of headed our way, and that we were going to have rain the next couple of days. Nobody was making this a big deal, but just something to look at, bring the umbrella to work, that kind of thing. So that was August 9th, and it went in and out of my head about that quick. Sure enough, August 10th, it rained, scattered, just like they said on the weather. No big deal. I want to tell you a little bit about some of the things we'll be talking about, some of the areas geographically we're going to be talking about in this podcast. One of them you'll hear a lot about is the Amite River. And this is for people that are listening to this podcast. Maybe they're in another part of the country, but the Amite River is a tributary. It's 117 miles long. It starts actually as two forks in Mississippi, southwestern part of Mississippi, and it flows south. It goes through kind of the border of Livingston Parish and Baton Rouge, and then it meanders its way, and it drains into what is called Lake Maurepas, okay, which is also in Livingston Parish. And I think from there, Lake Maurepas drains into Lake Pontchartrain. They all kind of meet each other at some point and intersect. So you're going to hear a lot about the Amite River. So that's why I kind of tell you that. On August 12th, after it rained on and off, but enough, it was probably 6 inches of rain on the 11th, I get a text from my wife, and I'll never forget this. She basically said, did you see the weather report? They must have been watching over lunch at her job. And I said, no. And she said, don't you think we need to buy supplies, bottled water, that sort of thing? And I responded, I'll never forget this. I put, quit freaking out. Now, my wife, she'll freak out a little bit. I've always got to be kind of the one that balances that. And I said, quit freaking out. It ain't going to flood, which she kept bringing up. I said, if it does anything, it's going to kind of flood right off the riverbank. I think at the time they were thinking the river was going to go to like a moderate, I don't even think it was a moderate flood stage, but they might have said moderate. And that was at the worst. Which, if it's at moderate flood stage, it's not going to flood anywhere near where I live in Denham Springs, Louisiana. So, to me, it was of no concern. But, of course, my wife, in typical my wife fashion, says, you need to go get water, you need to go get canned goods, all these things. Now, keep this in mind. We're from South Louisiana. Everybody from here knows how to supply up for hurricanes, and we have our share of hurricanes, tropical storms, tropical depressions, all those sorts of things. I mean, this is nothing new to us. So it's something that we can almost do in a couple hours time if we had to. I just felt like it was a little early to assume anything. So I don't even know if I responded back to that text, but I remember that evening I'm like, man, I need to pick up some beer on the way home. I don't know why exactly. Maybe I had a stressful day in the paint world or whatever, but I knew I was out of beer, and I like to have a beer every now and then. So I went to the local grocery store and I got a 6-pack of beer, went home, and just put it in the fridge. And I took a picture of it. And I posted that picture on Facebook. I don't remember exactly what I wrote, but I'm going to try to find that post and put it on the Local Leaders Podcast Facebook page and let you kind of see what I was talking about. But I made a Facebook post with that beer in the fridge, and I basically said, I'm ready. I got all the essentials. And that's what I wrote. Now, unbeknownst to me, it had, this was August 12th, so it had rained, and it had rained continuously. Buckets. I mean, it was raining pretty heavy in Baton Rouge, Livingston Parish, Prairieville area, all day long. And so I want to tell you a little bit about Denham Springs if you're not familiar with this area. The city of Denham encompasses about 7.35 square miles. Not a huge city. Even though it's not huge in square miles, we are the biggest business district in Livingston Parish. And even if you weren't in the city of Denham Springs, majority of people are actually on that outskirt right there, which there's a lot of rooftops, a lot. I don't know how many exactly, but just right there over that line that separates the city in Denham Springs and what would be considered the outskirts, thousands of rooftops. Okay. And there's a good bit in the city of Denham Springs, but all that being said, just wanted to give you an idea of the city. It's right across the Amite River from Baton Rouge, which is obviously the capital city here in Louisiana. And so a lot of people live here and they work in Baton Rouge, especially at the plants and factories we have that surround our parish. So give you an idea of that. It rained all day. And I got home, I made that Facebook post, and my wife comes home a little later, and she says, did you get any essentials? And I'm like, yeah, it's in the fridge. And it was the 6-pack of beer, and she didn't think that was too funny. I thought it was hilarious. But again, I'm thinking she is really overplaying this a little bit. I think she's, just thinking the worst here. I didn't see anything like that happening. Of course, no one did. So we go about our evening. We watch the news that night. Come to find out, it was already flooding in areas. Now, very important to mention here, it was flooding in areas, but it was nothing like what occurred on August 13th. Nothing like what occurred on August 13th. It was flooding primarily in lower lying areas of the parish, which was kind of expected. I don't remember exactly what the river stage was at that point, but on the next episode, when I pick up, I'll kind of take you through that. The meteorologist at that point did not seem very concerned. They were concerned about any flooding. They didn't expect the amount of rain that they got on August 12th by any means. So you have to remember, on August 11th, it was sporadic rain. And to be honest, there were parts of Baton Rouge, Livingston Parish, that have received already 6 inches of rain, and that was on a Thursday. That was August 11th, okay? Then Friday, which would be August 12th, what we're talking about now, it rained all day long. It was pretty hard rain, not torrential downpours, but just a constant, just steady rain. Just think about that. Never quit. Never quit. So by the end of August 12th, the ground was totally soaked. It was kind of on the doorstep of, if you lived right off of a river somewhere, you might want to start picking stuff up. All told, 11 inches of rain fell on the 12th. Do the math there. On August 11th, you had 6 inches, you had another 11. So that's 17 inches of rain already in 2 days. Again, the weather people, they were concerned, but they didn't have great concern for that. But boy, did they not know what was coming. Did none of us know what was coming. Went to bed. We didn't know August 13th was going to change our lives. Nobody knew August 13th was going to change their lives that lived here in South Louisiana. To put this into perspective, by the time it was over, it dumped 3 times as much rain on Louisiana as Hurricane Katrina. Wrap your mind around that. 3 times as much as Hurricane Katrina. 7.1 trillion with a T gallons of water, or enough to fill Lake Pontchartrain, which is a huge lake here in Louisiana, 4 times. That's how much water. That's amazing. So that's what we're about to get into. We've already had a lot. We've already had 17 inches. We're about to get into a whole lot more. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this right where it is. We'll pick it up on the next episode with August 13th. And you won't believe what I have to say. It'll blow your mind. You won't believe what occurred here in South Louisiana. It is the day that I watched the river rise.
The holidays start here at Baker's with a variety of options to celebrate traditions old and new. You could do a classic herb-roasted turkey or spice it up and make turkey tacos. Serve up a go-to shrimp cocktail or use Simple Truth wild-caught shrimp for your first Cajun risotto. Make creamy mac and cheese or a spinach artichoke fondue from our selection of Murray's cheese. No matter how you shop, Baker's has all the freshest ingredients to embrace all your holiday traditions. Baker's, fresh for everyone.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.